Over the past few years, especially fueled by the pandemic, we've seen a shortage of a lot of different things in our day-to-day lives. That comes from groceries, to common sense, fuel, and microchips, which are used predominantly in the production of brand new vehicles. What that means is wait times of new vehicles in excess of 1 year. So what happens when normal people decide to go out and buy a car that they need? Well, they got a couple of options. They can buy used locally, which normally costs upwards of tens of thousands of dollars more over what their actual value is because of the shortfall of new vehicles. And that means people are considering different types of vehicles nowadays, especially Japanese imports, because bang for your buck, you can save thousands and thousands of dollars buying a Japanese import versus a used similar vehicle found locally. And out of Japan, if it's been registered within the last few years, up until it was sold at least, it means it should be in fairly reasonable shape. Given that Japan has what's called a shaken inspection, that's a mechanical inspection that needs to be done every couple of years in order for a vehicle to be registered and driven on Japanese roads. So the chances are you're going to get something fairly decent and at a significant savings. So just for example, if you were to buy a Land Cruiser Prado here in Australia with the 3-litre 1KZ turbo diesel, chances are it would have done over 200,000 kilometers easily, more like 320,000 kilometers. You're going to be paying between $17,000 to $25,000 for that car, sometimes more if it's got some paint left on it and it hasn't been cooked by the Australian sun, versus under $20,000 for something like this, which I picked up with 158,000 kilometers on it. That's a lot of less wear and tear and a lot less exposure to the harsh environment that we have here in Australia. So when people ask me for my recommendation on buying a used Japanese import, normal people, Jane and John that is, I normally almost always say no, and let me explain why. So one of the examples that I use as to explaining why something like this isn't right for everyone is windscreen wipers. Now, if you're an average Australian family, you just want to use your car. You want to get in it, drive it, take it on road trips, groceries, drop the kids off, drive it to work and back, and maybe once a month you'd take it to an automatic car wash, or maybe once or twice a year you'd take it to one of those hand wash places. Now, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to imagine that someone, either an automatic machine or someone's wash mitt, would get caught on this very fragile windscreen washer nozzle. Obviously, there are two of them up here, and if it does get caught on this, what if it snaps it off or pushes it in? It's not just a nice to have feature, it's actually a legal requirement basically wherever you are in the world. Now, if I was to ask Jane or John, the average consumer, if they were willing to wait 2 to 3 weeks, up to 6 weeks for a replacement windscreen washer nozzle out of Japan, most of them would say, yeah, absolutely, it's not a big deal. Some people might even super glue it in place, but that's just going to fall off repeatedly. And the next thing is, where are you going to get the replacement windscreen washer nozzle? You can't just go into a Toyota dealership and get it. You can't walk into any other workshop and get it. A car like this means that you're going to have to sit on the internet, find the right website, find the right part number, search that part number, buy it for about 50 to 70 Australian dollars, and then wait 2 to 6 weeks for it to arrive. Now, again, you might be thinking 2 to 6 weeks and 50 to 70 bucks, that's not a big deal. That's fine, I can do that. I have the internet, I have time, I'll do it. No big deal. Okay, but how would you feel about spending $1,000 to $2,000 removing the entire dashboard to get to the windscreen washer nozzles? Now that changes things significantly, doesn't it? That's right. In order to replace the windscreen washer nozzles properly, the entire dashboard has to be removed. Now, nothing lasts forever. And the wiper motors are now 25 years old on this particular vehicle. In fact, if you were to buy the newest version of this particular van, for example, the 100 Series Hi-Ace, if you were to buy the last one off the production line, in 2 years' time, that's going to be 20 years old. 20 years of these wipers going up and down, up and down, up and down. So while this car is immensely reliable, while this badge means quite a bit in terms of reliability and longevity, nothing lasts forever. Eventually, you're going to have to replace a wiper motor, and that's going to cost you $1,500 to $2,000 just to pull the dashboard out and get that done. And that's not factoring in the price of the windscreen washer motor and the wait time that you're going to have for it to come out of Japan. So, food for thought. So the windscreen washer nozzle and the windscreen wiper motor were just one example. You know, a little thing like that on a normal car might cost you $375 for a windscreen wiper motor replacement. On this might cost you $2,200. The next thing is the engine. A lot of people ask me, well, how reliable is the engine? Well, the thing about that is it's pretty darn reliable. And when it comes to parts for an engine out of Japan, doesn't matter if it's a high super custom or whatever it is really, they all tend to share the same engines with local models, especially here in Australia. So this 1KZ engine, and it doesn't really matter what engine's in the van, would easily outlive me, just with a little bit of maintenance and a little bit of know-how as to driving it properly. Not a big deal. Everything that is bolted to the engine won't last forever. The radiators, the alternator, the starter motor, the air conditioning compressor, all of the rubber hoses for the radiator, the heater cores, of which there are 2, the injectors, the injection pump, all of these little things won't last forever. Nothing lasts forever. So you might think that's not a big deal. Nothing lasts forever anyway. Most cars will need an alternator or starter motor or radiator at some point, but like I just said, this is old. It's had 20 plus years of weathering. The metal itself has had 20 plus years of being exposed to the elements. Now, like I said before, trying to find a workshop that is willing to work on something out of Japan that is this old is going to be pretty tricky. Not only will they know where to get the parts, but they might be hesitant because they might break something in the process. So it's easier for them to just say, I'm sorry, we can't help you, sir. Move along. So it's not just replacing these components, it's sourcing these parts, waiting for them, and then trying to get them fitted properly. All of these things don't make a lot of sense to Jane and John, who are just normal people and just want a normal car in the driveway. If, however, you're not a normal person, if you're a little bit crazy like me, the one question you should ask yourself if a Japanese import is right for you or not: can you afford your primary means of transport being out of action for 6 weeks to 3 months at a time? And if you can answer yes to that, go for gold. Then there's driving the damn thing. So this is classic 90s complexity. 4th gear is operated by a switch on the automatic gear selector, which will put you into overdrive. Now, overdrive is perfectly fine to use for highway cruising, for daily driving, etc. All of these different things until you get to a very steep hill that goes on for a very long time. If you continue to climb the hill in overdrive, you're going to overwork the gearbox and cause it to die. At that very same time, you're likely going to cook the engine. So just by climbing one hill and not disengaging the overdrive, you could cause about $10,000 worth of damage. That's not something that the average person wants to be thinking about. To make matters worse, if you drive with the ECT power button on, and then you disengage the overdrive to climb the hill, the torque converter won't lock in 3rd gear, which is the gear that you need to be climbing hills in or doing hard work in. So while you're climbing this hill, and even before you get to it, if you own a car like this, you need to consciously have in the back of your mind, all the while carrying on a conversation with the other people in the car, going about life, but you need to be thinking, okay, this is a very steep, very long hill. I won't be able to climb it in 4th gear because the automatic transmission will overheat and I'll cause damage, or I might blow the head gasket or crack the cylinder head or destroy the engine. So I need to disengage the ECT power button, and then I need to disengage the overdrive, which will put it into 3rd gear, and I need to maintain over 60 kilometers an hour to ensure that the torque converter is locked up, the water pump is spinning at a fast rate, the viscous fan hub is spinning at a fast rate, cooling the engine down, and there won't be any damage caused. That's a lot of complexity for the average person to keep in mind, let alone trying to explain that to the average buyer. So that just adds to the reasons as to why I can't recommend something like this to the average person. Well, that leads me to the end of this video, and I have some news for you. Well, it's been 1 year since I purchased my Atto Premier Pro subscription, and it's up for renewal. That's $360. Now, all this talk about the economy, that's $360 that I don't have to spend at this time on a video editing software that I barely use. I would love to make a lot more videos for you guys, and I have been trying. Case in point, the video I released yesterday, where I had the car jacked up on the side of the road trying to get footage. Now, you can get by with not having the best camera. you can also get by with not being able to deliver the right message, as long as you can shoot it properly. And if you don't get the message right, you can always make up for it with really good, clear, concise video shots. Unfortunately, you can't do any of that if you don't have the space to film. It's an issue that I face from day one, is just finding somewhere to shoot in peace and quiet with decent lighting and enough time to allow me creativity. So case in point, a video that I released yesterday, which seems a little bit out of place on my YouTube channel. It's just me scrubbing the exhaust of this car. Now that's part of a larger video. All of these videos consume hours and hours of my time, both from a mental process as to what I want to share with you, all the way down to executing it. And it's just very difficult to find a space to do it quietly, to set up the camera, and to make sure that everything is in shot. Yesterday, I forgot to push record on so many shots because I was afraid I was going to get run over because I was working on the side of the road. And I think you guys deserve better as well. Better quality videos, and this is something that I just don't want to half-ass anymore. So I just wanted to thank all of you for putting up with me through all of the quirky little videos while I was trying to find my ground, and just generally trying to find the best, most funniest way to deliver information to you guys. And I realize now I just had to be myself. You can still come and talk to me and check me out on Instagram. I don't post a lot on there, but I use it just to communicate directly with you guys, or you can email me. My email address is always in the description box below. So not just for this video, but for all of the other videos, I sincerely thank you for your time. Goodbye.